Welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat and there's room for everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Invincible, Season 3, Episode 2, A Deal with the Devil. I'll be honest with you, I think this episode's better than the previous one. And so we're going to be chatting about what happened in this episode that was good, some of the things I maybe didn't like, and some of the things that we look forward to in episode 4. So to begin with, and I'm not even going to do the breakdown yet, I like this episode a lot more. There's a lot more heartstring pulls. There's a lot more interesting things that happened. And then also there was a lot more benefit to the show from the other characters and not just Rex being a goofy sidekick kind of person like in episode 1. So in this episode, what we saw was we had a look back at how Cecil became who he is, right? He was an agent for this agency where he saved a city. On the boardwalk, there was going to be some sort of gas explosion that was going to melt the skins of all these people. There's this Bonnie and Clyde villain s group that was happening, that they were going to do this, and Cecil was able to stop it from happening. But right before it happened, he gets exposed to this thing. It melts his skin off, and it's a flashback, right? It's like 18 to 20 years in the past from our current timeline, maybe 20, 23 or 24 years. He's got long hair and he's younger. But he gets his skin melted off like right in front of us, and then we take a beat, and the next thing we see is Cecil's got his skin back, but he still has that scar on his face. And even the current or the director of that group there was like, "Hey man, they missed your spot. I should have got my money back." Kind of a funny joke. And Cecil's like, "It's a reminder." And then see, that's when you get like, "I'm a hardened veteran. I'm Cecil. I have to make the hard decisions because that's my job." Person, which I don't know that I disagree with completely. I understand where he's coming from, but I do like that we got to see him kind of becoming this person. Then he gets thrust into a situation where he's saving his boss during an attack on the Pentagon, and this supervillain shows up, and then you find out that his boss reanimated the couple to help fight for the good guys when they were fighting for the bad guys, the couple that tried to blow up that town. And boy, Cecil did not take well to that. So he shot them in the head because he thinks villains are villains, right? Okay. So they sent him to prison. And when he's in prison after 3 years, he shapes up the prison. It's pretty cool. But so when we come back, we got Cecil and he gets elevated. Once he shapes up the prison, they essentially say, "Oh, you're the perfect man for the next directorship job because I can't do it anymore." So he becomes a new director as a young man. And that's when we flash back forward to the White Room where Cecil and Invincible and these zombie android things are. And Invincible's like, "You're evil, dude." And so Invincible defeats all the zombie androids and he threatens Cecil, and Cecil's like, "Don't threaten me," and he threatens him again, and then the lights go red, and a bunch of the zombie androids are there, and so Invincible's like, "Nah, dude, we're done with this," and attacks him, but he uses this device that kind of uses this sonic thing that's inside Invincible's head, and it kind of cripples him, and he can't move or whatever, and we have a little bit of conflict there, and Invincible escapes. Um, and heads towards the hideout where the other heroes are to try to get this device removed from his head because it's basically letting Cecil control him or control him with fear. You see, it's funny because like Cecil has this, he has that fear, right? Like Cecil's fear is kind of warranted, because like he got destroyed. Like Omni Man could have completely destroyed the Earth had he not chosen to leave at the end of season 1. And so Cecil is just protecting he's protecting his constituents, he's protecting his own. He thinks he's doing the right thing, and he's down a pretty bad path here. Cecil is. And so it's pretty interesting how things are going right now. But when our hero, Invincible, ends up at the hideout. He asks the android character, the smartest person on the planet, basically, to remove this device, and Cecil shows up at the hideout. And Cecil's like, "Don't help him, whatever." And all the zombie androids kind of show up and they start attacking Invincible or whatever. And then the good guys stop the zombie androids from attacking Invincible. And then the android stops the Sonic thing from happening. And Invincible goes off on all of the zombie android things and dismantles them in a pretty gruesome way, reminiscent of when Omni Man did that to the heroes in episode 1 or 2 of season 1. There's a lot of like very reminiscent moments in episode 1 and 2 of season 1, and that's obviously intentional. We're trying to get to a point where Invincible is an adult. We're trying to get to a point where Invincible is an adult, and they realized that I think the first season came out in like 2020, and the next one came out late 2022, early 2023. So there's a lot of gap here. And I think they do a good job of kind of mirroring or echoing the sentiments and some of the scenes that happen in season 1 in season 3, or at least the first 2 episodes of season 3. So I super appreciate it. But he definitely uh he Invincible definitely kills all those zombie android things. And so Cecil threatens Invincible again, which seemed kind of dumb because Invincible's like, "Nah, bro, I'm going to unalive you if you come near me ever again." And I got to be honest with you, I'm siding with Invincible on this one. I'm siding with him. I don't think that's all that short-sighted. I don't. I'm a big fan of letting people be free, and that level of control is not okay. So I don't know whose side anyone is on. Some people are on Cecil's side, I'm sure. I'd love to know in the comments, are you on Cecil's side in season 2, or are you on Invincible's side in season 2 so far? And so as this all kind of breaks down, Invincible wins. They remove the device from his head. He goes home back to his house where Eve is there, and uh, Oliver's there, and his mother's there, and they discuss kind of what's happening. And we get this really beautiful scene between Eve and Invincible and Mark, where they discuss their relationship, and it's still kind of stalled because of the revelation that happened in episode 1 with the future version of Eve confessing her love and all this business. Eve makes it known that she's more embarrassed that her future version was so soft and weak that she couldn't figure out how to communicate, which I thought was a really, really nice touch. And then we also are back at the hideout at one point where the team breaks up. One half of the team goes Team Invincible, the other half of the team goes Team Cecil. And it's the old heads versus the new heads, essentially. That's kind of how that's gone down. We'll be interested to see what happens. Essentially, it's a Civil War plot from the MCU. It's a similar vibe. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what happens here. What am I missing so far? But yeah, Mark's just defeated all the people, all the androids. Even Mark, they have their conversation. Um, Mark goes and tells his best friend in college that the person in season 2 that destroyed his best friend's boyfriend is still alive, and they kind of convince Mark that, killing's not right, dude. You just become one of them, which is essentially every superhero in DC's deal. Like everything is fine until you kill, and then you're another one of them. Don't never cross that line, even though Invincible's crossed that line and he's bearing that. Um, it's a great message. Like I said, I'm still Team Invincible. Um, then there's some more relationship stuff. Mark's mom goes on a date, which I love. Actually, I think it's pretty cool. She doesn't do well on this date, and that guy stands zero chance. But yeah, and then Eve goes to class where she kind of learns how to build things. She goes to an architecture school, which is kind of cool because she builds things. Actually, it's actually awesome. Um, then Cecil revisits the hideout after the team splits up. Darkwing shows up. They get invited back onto the team. There's a little bit more conversation, but it's a little bit kind of boring. And then Cecil is we have another flashback where Cecil is the newest director and he's trying to kind of lead. And he essentially confronts the rest of the team. And the first person that he meets is his number one, the guy with the glasses and the short hair. I can't remember his name. He's kind of forgettable, but he says like, "Yeah, this is piss poor work. I won't have this." And then they get kind of an emergency, and he walks out, and Omni Man is defeating this massive monster, and he's like, "Ah, hell." Essentially, it feels like you know when Zod shows up on Earth, only it's kind of a fake Zod who's trying to pull one over on our heroes. So now we know, because Mark's like 19 at this point, that these flashbacks take place about 20 years before he's been director for about 20 years. I hope that plays into it, like he's been on the job for 20 years, blah 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 blah. Maybe that'll play into something pretty soon. But we kind of figure out we get to figure out who Cecil is. We get to figure out who Cecil is and why he is who he is, which is pretty interesting. So after that, Cecil confronts Omni Man in the flashback. He kind of figures out that he can't trust Omni Man, and that's the beginning of the kind of mistrust of superheroes, which leads into the beginning of the story at episode 2. And then we get a couple of credits roll, but then we get a mid credit scene where Eve and Mark are on a bridge, and they're having a little quick conversation about their relationship. And Mark confesses that when he was close to death, all he could think of was Eve. And Eve's like, "All right, I'm in then. I'm in if you're in." And it was so sweet. And I, Eve is slowly becoming my favorite character of the show. I just love her story. I love the little one shot that we saw that came out between season 1 and season 2, where you kind of figure out how Eve gets her powers and who her family is. I like Eve a lot. Um, she's beautiful. She's a beautiful character. She reminds me a lot of Lonnie, actually, from that Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. They both have similar arcs where they're so reluctant and they're kind of trying to figure it out. They've got no answers. It's pretty beautiful. But yeah, now they're a couple. Now they're a couple. So we're getting ready to watch episode 3. Pretty stoked about it, actually. I'm curious to see what happens. There was a few things in this episode I didn't super like, but we'll figure it out. One of the things I didn't super like is the lack of clarity on this organization that hired Cecil and who he is within this organization. I wish there was a little bit more initially. Was he just some random dude who was like an agent? I guess so. And like I wish they'd just given him like a title, right? Or a name. They don't really do that. He just becomes a director. Another thing I'm not super, super thrilled about is the immortal saying, "Oh, they'll come back." I don't think he has any reason to believe that, like none whatsoever. So the fact that he said it is kind of weird because he's been around for like centuries, right? That's kind of his thing, is that he's been around for centuries, and he claims, "Oh, they'll be back." All right, buddy. For someone to know what nuance is as a person, to have seen everything, and to think that they'll just come back, it's kind of silly. Doesn't make any sense. Outside of that, it's great. I give it like a 9.9, 9.8. It's one of my favorite episodes, actually, this one. Um, because it's good. Oh, the other thing I don't like, I still feel like they nerfed Invincible. Still feel they nerfed Invincible because he feels weaker in these first 2 episodes than he did in season 1 and in season 2, obviously. So we'll see. But anyways, I'm gonna pop on episode 3 here in a minute, and we'll get it going and see what happens. In the meantime, why don't you like and subscribe? Tell your friends. Everyone's welcome on the couch. We save everyone a seat. Everyone can come. And we'll just keep this sort of train rolling and, maybe talk about episode 3 here in a few minutes. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace.